friends, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Julie. I am a mom to 5 young kids ranging in age from 9 down to 1. I have gotten a lot of questions recently, and even in not recently, years ago, I would get questions on disciplining my kids and on teaching my kids to obey, and just kind of how we roll, how we do things around here. First, let me say, because I do post a lot of day in the lives and you guys see my kids, you guys see how they behave by what I post. These are 15-minute videos I post, and of course I am not showing bad behaviors. I'm not showing me losing my temper. I'm not showing them disobeying and fighting and a lot of those negative things that I'm sure are present in all of your lives as a mom, and they're very present in my life as well. So I am by no means perfect on this. I have a little bit of experience. I've been raising kids for a while here. I know you could find people with many more years of experience than I have, but I'm just gonna share with you what we do, things that we have learned through our time as parents. First of all, teach them how to obey from a young age. I think a lot of it is about expectation, and I think a lot of parents will let their kids get away with things thinking, oh, they're young, or oh, they don't understand. You would be amazed how much kids understand even from toddlerhood, and they are having these temper tantrums. Wes is just getting into this age now. He's 18 months, and you know, it's at that time where it's like, should I be putting him in timeout, or should I be, taking this away from him, or should I just, okay, he's just little still. And it's always tricky knowing whether you should be going easy on them or being tough on them. Kids are naturally manipulative, and they will push buttons, and they will always go as far as you will let them. If you say to them, for instance, okay, come here right now, I'm gonna count to 3 and you better be here. They're going to reach you just before you say 3 every single time, because they are going to push as much as they can. They're going to get as much as they possibly can. So the key is consistency. And I don't mean to be pointing fingers here and saying all the bad ways other parents are parenting. I'm just kind of trying to give you a little bit from my viewpoint, but I definitely hear parents who say, if you, and I'm sure you do too, in the grocery store, and they say, if you touch that one more time, we're leaving right now. And then that kid does the same thing again, and they don't leave. So then the next time that happens and the parent says, if you do this one more time, the kid doesn't even pay attention, doesn't even worry about what's going to happen, because he knows, no, I'm in control here. I can do this again. My parents are going to start yelling and screaming at me, but they're not going to do anything about it. We're not leaving the store because I did it. My parents always threaten me. There's empty threats, but they never follow through. So be careful what threats you make to your kids, what ultimatum you give them, because you have to follow through, or your kids are not going to be obedient. They're not going to follow directions because they know that they have control in that situation. So again, consistency is key. From a young age, we like to play an obedience game. So when our kids are, we haven't done it with Wesley yet, he doesn't understand quite enough yet, but around the time they're 2 and then even into when they're 3, we'll just randomly say, okay, we're gonna play a little game. I want you to go run over and touch the fridge, and then come back and give me a high five. And do it as fast as you can. And so they run and go and touch the fridge and come back and give you a high five. And then as they get into maybe closer to 3 years old, I would say, okay, now I want you to go touch the fridge, then I want you to go touch the dishwasher, and then I want you to come and give me a hug. You can give them those 3 instructions instead of 2 instructions, and it's just a fun game. It's nothing serious, but it's helping them just learn how to obey fast, how to follow directions, and then as they get older, of course, following more directions. That's another important thing, is when your kids are young, don't give them more than one direction. And I have had to learn this and relearn this and be reminded of it, that especially when they're young, they can't follow that many directions. So what I would say to my kids when they're like maybe 2 or 3, I'd say, okay, I want you to go put this toy in the basket and then come see me. So they'll put the toy in the basket and come see me, and then I'll say, okay, there's one more toy over here I want you to go pick up. Put that in your basket and then come see me. And then when they come see me, I'll say, okay, now pick your socks up off the floor and put them in your hamper, and so on. But if you say, okay, go clean up your room, you can get all upset because they haven't cleaned up their room, but that is so much for a young child to follow. And if you're just giving them step-by-step instructions, that is something that they actually can accomplish. We teach our kids from a young age that there are three ways to obey. So the ways to obey are immediately, completely, and cheerfully. So the way we tell our kids is fast, with a smile, and all the way. And our kids all know this, and we say it often, because sometimes my kids will go fast. They go fast to go, I don't know, I can't even think of anything right now. Go clean up their room. They go fast to clean up their room, and they don't do it. They go up to their room and they go sit down, and they didn't clean up their room. So then we have a chat. You need to obey fast, with a smile, and all the way. Or they'll run off fast and they'll be running off stomping. Oh, I don't want to do this. And then they go and clean their room and they do it. But it wasn't cheerfully. And so we are always trying to remind our kids, you need to obey fast, with a smile, and all the way. And if you're not doing those 3 things, then that isn't obedience. And that is something that needs to be reminded over and over and over to your kids. We definitely, like periodically, like every few months, we go through times where we're like, wait, we're kind of letting this slide. And just recently, one of my kids, Andrew and I were talking, and I was like, wait, I have been telling that child to do the same thing 2 or 3 times before they go do it. So I'll tell them, then they haven't moved, and a couple minutes later, okay, remember I told you to go do that? And a couple minutes later, you need to go do that right now. And then they do. And it becomes a habit that I have to tell them 2 or 3 times, and then it happens. Why does that become a habit? I should be on top of it, but I've just kind of let it slide, and then I have to kind of rein things in again, and I'll talk to that child and just kind of explain expectations and explain those 3 ways to obey again and say, this is it. Like, I'm only going to tell you 1 time, and I'm not telling you again. And if you don't do it that first time, then such and such will be the result of that. You're going to have to lose this privilege or whatever you've chosen for that ultimatum. Okay, on to the topic of discipline, and I'm not gonna go into detail on, my kid situations, and I'm not gonna point out my kids, this child does this and we do that, and our methods change all the time. Every child is different, every age is different, so they'll go through an age where, one method of discipline works, then they'll get a little bit older, and that doesn't work anymore and we need to do something else. So it's always kind of changing. I will say, make sure what you are, the way you're disciplining them is always done in love. If you are screaming at your child saying, you're grounded, I don't think that's done in love. If you're always yelling at them and screaming at them, again, you've lost control, and so you need to try to keep that control without raising your voice. I'm saying this to myself because I do raise my voice at my kids, and I have to, okay, Julie, take a deep breath, walk to another room, and go talk to your child. Don't raise your voice. You also need to let some things go. You can't be a control freak and making sure every single little thing in your house is done exactly how you would want it to be done. And if your child washes dishes differently than you do, or if they have a different method of cleaning their room or whatever chore they are given or whatever they're supposed to be doing, they can do it differently from you, and that is okay. And you need to just embrace that and realize that it doesn't have to be done just the way you want it to. Sometimes it's nice to give them a couple of options too, and I try to do this with my kids rather than saying, go do this right now, go do that right now, go do this, and all the time just giving them commands. I will try to let them have options, especially as they get older. I'll say, okay, these couple of things need to get done. Either you can go clean your room. I've totally overused cleaning your room, but you can go clean your room and then you can practice the piano, or you can practice the piano first and then you can go clean your room. You can decide, but both of those things need to get done. And sometimes I think that's nice for a child to have that option rather than just being always told exactly what they need to do right now. Also, it's always a good reminder to remember that God shows us mercy and love. And again, it's that balance, like, you're the authority, you want your children to follow you, to listen to you, but you also can show them mercy. God shows us mercy all the time. We're His children. He shows us mercy. He shows us grace. He gives us things we don't deserve. And so we need to remember that as parents as well. And we can show that same mercy and grace to them as well. Not always just, you didn't do it, boom, go to your room right now. You can be a bit more patient and show a little bit more love in action. So again, different ages, different personalities mean different types of discipline. For sure, when they're young, I'm making them sit in the corner. Some of my kids can be sent to their room, and they're such little social butterflies that being sent to their room for half an hour by themselves, this is when they're a bit older, that is awful. Like, not being able to talk to anybody, that is awful. And sometimes it's taking away privileges, and sometimes it's hard because those privileges, I want them to have those privileges, and so for me to take that privilege away makes me sad, but sometimes that is what works the best. Sometimes maybe I'll give them jobs to make up for it, or more service, like, you did this to your sibling, now you're gonna have to serve your sibling. And we had a lot of scrapping going on between two of my kids one day last week, and I made the two of them spend the whole day together. They were allowed to play with their other siblings too, but everything they did was the two of them together. If you want to go outside, you're both going outside and you're playing together. You're gonna learn how to get along. Again, we're reminding them, what are the 3 ways to obey? You need to obey fast, with a smile, and all the way. And sometimes, especially if it's something as simple as like, okay, come here please. Da-da-da, nobody's coming. Okay, come here please. Nobody's coming. And I have to call more than a couple times. Then I say, okay, we're gonna practice this. So we're gonna do it 10 times. And we've done this a lot of times, and I'll make my child run to, the room where they were, where I know they heard me. And then they have to run to me. Okay, run to me. Okay, run back. Okay, run to me. Okay, run back. Okay, run to me. And again, it's like that obedience game. They don't see it as much of a game as they get older, but usually by the end, they're giggling again. And it just gives them that practice, that reminder of like, hey, when mom calls me, I need to come fast. I also like to take the time, if necessary, to explain to them how to do it differently. Like, I'll sit and say, okay, here's what happened. Like, that shouldn't have happened. How could you have responded differently in this situation? Or how could you have resisted that temptation to steal or to lie? How could we have done that differently? Another thing I will quickly note on that about lying is I've learned with my kids, don't purposely give them opportunities to lie. So if you have a child who you know has a problem with lying and you saw them swipe that candy off the counter, instead of saying to them, did you just take a candy off the counter, and giving them that opportunity to lie to you because you know that's a weakness for them, instead of saying that, just say, hey, I saw you take that. I told you that you're not allowed to, so now this is gonna happen. Don't give them more opportunities than need be to lie to you. And again, when we sit down and talk, that was just a little side note there about lying, but I would ask them, what do you think you should do differently? Like, here's how I think it could have worked better. How could you have done that differently that didn't result in you stealing or hitting or whatever the circumstance may be? And we'll talk it over and say, okay, so next time you're tempted, you're gonna do such and such, and we'll pray and ask God to help them with that as well. But again, consistency is key. Really making them know those 3 ways to obey has been key for us. And it takes a lot of discipline as a parent. So it's disciplining your children, but it's discipline for you. And sometimes it's easy to just yell at your kids, and it's easy just to let things slide and not be on top of what's happening and how your kids have been back talking or how they've been not obeying quickly or whatever the case is. It's discipline for yourself as the parent. Like, we're going to be consistent here. I'm going to make sure that I'm doing the best that I can with parenting my kids. So if you guys were some of the ones who asked me about discipline and about teaching my kids to obey, I hope that was a help to you. Like I said, I am still learning all the time, and we're not even in like preteen years. So I know there's a lot more tricky situations and tricky ages we'll get to that will not always be smooth sailing, and maybe I'll do an updated video and let you know what else I've learned. But thank you guys for watching today. Give it a thumbs up and share it if you want to share this message with somebody else, and I'll see you guys in my next video.